Some lectures are near and dear to my heart, and this is one of them. And it's about how do customers think, and what it has to do about is the field of behavioral economics. And that's the understanding why people do certain things and to be able to predict it. So last time we talked about the value proposition, and today we're going to talk about customer need and how we think and do certain things. The basic premise of all of this is that yes, people are random. People will do different things. But in general, we all go through the same process. And it's because we go through the same process we can predict certain things that we're going to do. Today we're going to talk about Maslow, who defines our needs, customer values, behavioral economics, essentially how do we go about making decisions. We're going to talk about certain aspects of behavioral economics, which is called prospect theory, and laying bets. Basically, why do people invest in certain things? So how do we make decisions? What it comes down to is we're all limited. We're shaped by our cognitive ability, meaning how much information we can take in, psychological, based on your habits or how you've been trained, and emotional. There's also social factors. What you do decide by yourself versus how you act around a lot of other people tend to make a difference. And because we have these biases, we tend to make dumb choices. We won't pick the most optimal thing. However, by understanding this, we can influence others. Now, what Maslow did is, in terms of our needs, he put it into a hierarchy, a structure. And it starts with basic food and water. Then, beyond that, it's safety. And whether it's safety for your home or safety on the internet, same thing. Love and belonging. People go to church for love and belonging, or you could do it through a dating site. Esteem is feeling good about yourself. What are the things that boost you up? And so people driving around in BMW affects esteem. Self-actualization, you could take this class, learning how to become the best you, or you could take it online. And so products can represent multiple values on this hierarchy, and they also could be societal. For example, in the United States, food and water isn't that big a deal to us because we have so much of it. On the other hand, if you were living in Sri Lanka or a very poor country, you'd be very concerned about shelter and things like that. And so again, context. We've talked about what customers value, and economic psychology. Now, when they originally went into this, they assumed that people would act in a certain way, and then they found out it just wasn't true. However, trying to figure out how we go about making decisions impacts all kinds of things from what we're planning on. Some models hold up better than others. This is not engineering where you're going to be able to get 99.99% accuracy. However, if my odds of figuring something out are 50-50 and I can get those odds up to 80%, significant improvement. And once again, people may not be consistent, but we are systematic. There are two biases people have, which pretty much does people in. And one is you make the assumption that people are like you, that if you look at the world this way, everybody else is going to look at the world that way. And that's a killer for marketers because you're not dealing with reality. The second aspect is my view of the world is superior to everybody else's. Not only is my view of what everybody else's is, it's better than any of your suggestions. And again, clouds you from reality. In terms of making decisions, there are three tiers. One is being rational, and that's that you're going to maximize return. You're going to do the thing that's best for you. Motivational is following psychological theory. For example, you probably know people who are hedonistic. They're driven by pleasure. They don't think things through. That's an example of motivational. And finally, bounded rationality. And that what bounded rationality does is it follows game theory and economics. And that's that we find out that people don't act in the way that we think they're going to act. And the reason why is because we have limitations. Rationality is about people will do things for maximum return from them. That's acting rational. And so one thing I've often said about people, the only thing you can count on people to do is what's in their best interest. Now, my wife is a kind person and believes that within everyone there is good, and I fundamentally just believe that's the only thing you can count on people to do. And so the one thing about my view of the world is, yes, it might be cold, it might be cynical, but people don't disappoint you very often. Are we always rational, though? I mean, it makes sense. You think people do what's in their best interest. And Alan Greenspan was shocked that these guys sank the entire economy. But it's like, Alan, did you fall off a turnip truck? It's called greed. We're still people, and so people can be driven by irrationality. An example of that is actually Stanford students. They asked Stanford students, what are the causes of death? And they asked them, well, are you more likely to die from natural causes or unnatural causes? And so 73% said you're going to die from natural causes, when it's actually 92%. Your odds are much lower of dying from murder or something like that. And so subsequently they asked them, what do you think, what percentage of all deaths are from unnatural causes? And they said 53% when it's only 8%. And things like 9/11 happen and all, and people start to look irrationally. The hard truth is, since 9/11, your odds of dying from furniture falling on you are higher than you getting killed by a terrorist here on, a foreign terrorist, I should say, on American soil. But we're subject to that. And in the next lecture, I'll give you an example of one of those irrationalities from the game of Ultimatum.